So Joe, running uphill with very short legs is the challenge. Yeah, fair enough. Um, yeah, and yeah, I think hills are tough on all of us, because even fit, really fit runners, if they try and run up a hill at the same speed that they're trying to run on the flat, the intensity goes up. And we always say to Couch 5K members, when you're supposed to be running, if you're on a run period but you hit a hill, just go back to a walk, because walking up hills is pretty much just as hard as running on the flat. So yeah, hills do make a big difference. Asthma, previous hip injury, Andy, thanks for that. Yeah, look, asthma is going to make the lungs harder, but I do also hear a lot of people say, I can't run because I've got asthma. So it's great to know that you are having a go at it. And if you think, the way I sort of think about having asthma, and I don't have asthma, but anything that impacts your lungs. We've had a lady, very heavy beginner, 1 year came and joined us, and then she breaks the news that she's had lung cancer and she's had part of her lungs removed. She got through our Couch to 5K plan. And that's Emma, Silsby, Andy, done fantastically well to achieve that, and it's just being told to slow down. So, Andy, I think that's really going to help you. But yeah, obviously in terms of hip injuries, that's the next issue, isn't it? If we could learn to pace ourselves and stop those lungs from burning, then the niggles can start to creep in. And as Andy sort of mentioned, you're going to get tightness that comes in during a run. It's very uncommon for people to have accidents, where something just, you could trip and fall, of course you could, and you can really knock yourself. And then you definitely want to have a walk before you try running. Just let the adrenaline come down, because obviously adrenaline can mask something that could be quite serious. If you have actually got a fracture in your elbow or something, or your shoulder. And so it's important to just take some time if you have had a fall. But most pains that we get from running are just because muscles are tightening up. You've got this maybe tight quads, and the front of your thigh, and your kneecap's hurting while you're running, or maybe the side of your knee starting to hurt. Typically, it is just to do with very tight muscles that attach into that joint, and they're pulling on that joint. And each time your foot to the ground, they're yanking on that joint. They say that running causes these pains, but actually running just typically shows up muscle tightnesses that, and they're going to keep getting worse unless you do something to counteract that tight area. Sometimes it can be strength. So a very common example there is the lower calves, so the lower legs, because when we run, we're constantly just pushing off through our calves. Okay, so the heel lands, and we contract our calf muscle down the back of the lower leg to push the heel off the floor. But we never, as a runner, we never lower the heel down to the floor. Okay, so we're always doing this contraction. It's called a concentric contraction, where we're propelling ourselves forward, but we skip the eccentric phase. The eccentric phase is the lowering phase, where we would, if we landed on our toes, we would lower our heel down to the ground against gravity's force. But instead we land on the heel, so we skip that part, and then we push off. So what happens is we get really good at pushing off through our calf muscle, but we don't get very good at lowering through the calf. So the key way to prevent calf pains and Achilles problems is to actually work on a calf raise. So just basically on a step, lowering the heel, lifting the heel, lowering the heel, but lowering it slow, so that you're actually teaching that muscle to control itself. So that's just one example of what causes these pains that we get when we run. And trust me, practically every runner gets pains along the way at some stage, unless they're really good at keeping on top of the tightness and staying strong. So in terms of being out on the run, I think I know it's very easy to think about and be paranoid about catching COVID or infecting others with COVID. But at the end of the day, we can take measures and actually sometimes it's important just to sit back and while you're running, just smell the roses and just think, actually, I'm outside now. I've been cooped up all day. I've not really had a lot of sunlight. And if you can actually get the run right, then the intensity should be great, as in you should feel great on your run. And therefore you should be able to enjoy it. But if you get the pacing wrong or you don't warm up enough, then you're not going to enjoy it. So in order to improve this experience of your run, regardless of COVID or not, you really want to make sure that you get the challenge right, get the warm up right.
Yeah, brilliant. I think, again, when you finish your run, you go back to your warm up spot or nearby, and Connor will tell you should walk about half a kilometre at the end of a run, just to help the muscles warm down. So confused by warm up going on there, but warm down. But from a safety point of view, make sure you check in with your buddy, the person that you've told that you're going out, because they may not be in your household. It could be a fellow runner or a best friend. That's a fairly obvious thing to do, but just to let them know that you're home. And then if you use a runner watch or an app on your phone, then you have some stats. And we encourage you. We've got a closed Facebook group, which is a brilliant place to share your stats. And you never know, you might get some really positive comments from other people on there, which is really nice. And even if you had a bad run, or what you think is a bad run, people will still come back and say, "Oh, you've done really well, and don't worry, you're not always going to get a good run." So we encourage you to do that. And for the next couple of weeks, we're just inviting people who have registered to come onto those Facebook groups, just to get a flavour as to what that's all about. If you join, obviously you stay on there. If you don't join, we'll ask you to leave from a safety point of view, if that's okay. Yeah, so that's what to do at the end of the run, really, and have a nice shower or warm bath when you get in as well. Well, Connor will probably tell you to have a nice bath, but I won't.
Yeah. And certainly if you've got any tight spots that really have kicked off, say your Achilles is starting to hurt or your knee, would look to get ice on that as soon as you can. So I wouldn't even bother stretching after a run, which is something very people commonly do. If you've caused some little micro trauma in those muscles, then you need to get the inflammation down. And so yeah, getting some cold on that as soon as possible will be the first thing, and then jumping in the shower. But the other thing to do is actually just take stock of the run, of your stats. So hopefully you will after this. This isn't what the talk's been about, but we're encouraging it everywhere, is to get an app or a watch and have a look at the stats from your run. Have a look at your average speed and how far you've gone, and just compare that to the other runs you've done. Have you achieved what you set out to achieve with your challenge? We don't need you to absolutely smash it. We just want to set realistic challenges and try and achieve those and feel good about it. And it's just a lot better than purely having the positive or negative memory from the run. You know what I mean? So you've actually got facts to look back on. It's not just, oh, this felt like a bit of a shit run. I'm actually not sure if I'm going to do that again. If you can go back to your app and compare that to a previous run and realize, oh, flip, actually, I actually went a bit further or a bit faster than I thought I had, or certainly than I had on a previous run. And just being able to look back through your history of runs can be a really positive thing for you to help you, chug along and stay motivated. And again, obviously, if you've got friends to share that with, then go for it. I think it is great to have other people that know that you're looking to improve your running, and whether it be to hold you accountable or just to give you a pat on the back. And obviously with the club, you've got other people who are right up that street. So if you do struggle for friends who appreciate you going for a run or whatever, then having club mates is a great thing. Andy, you were going to touch on just running at night. It's obviously not the time of year to be too worried about that, but it is something to think about.
Yeah, it's very easy to go for a run at the moment. Just chuck on an old t-shirt and a pair of shorts and a pair of trainers or runners, and get yourself out there. But come the winter, it just becomes more important just to make sure you're safe and visible. So a number of things we just do there, and it's all fairly obvious stuff, but wear yourself a bright garment, which is useful. A lot of running tops, even if they're not bright, have reflective strips on the back, which help drivers and headlights pick you up. One thing I use a lot is a runner's light, which operates in two ways. I try not to blind you with this, but so you've got a front light and a rear light, and you've also got a flashing mode on those as well, which is really useful. So it's like riding your bicycle. The other option, if you like wearing a baseball cap when you're running, is one of these, which you can pick up from. I'll put it on because I can't do it when I'm running, but it just clips on the peak of your cap, and you've got a light there, which is fantastic for setting your path. I bought that from Homebase before it closed down at £1.49, and that came with a battery, so you can buy things like that, which are really, really useful. What else? Oh yeah, just have a think about where you're running as well. I think I've touched on it earlier, but just avoid quiet areas, unlit footpaths, or running across fields. That's quite difficult to do in the dark. So try and stick to main roads and cycle paths and things like that. Yeah, I think that covers anything. If you've got any questions, I'll just shove them into the chat box now, or shout up, and I think Connor's just going to close us down.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Andy. Beginners Week, it's all about learning. Okay, so great for you guys to show up. When it comes to improving your running, it's not as easy as we think, right? We think we've all run when we were at school, and therefore we should be able to run now. But if you think about other sports and about learning a language or a musical instrument, you don't just jump in with a guitar and start playing with a band. You actually got to learn how to play that guitar first, right? So I think that learning is very similar. You've got to actually learn how to pace yourself. You've got to learn how to release tension in your muscles to stop them from hurting. You'll learn how to strengthen those muscles to stop them from failing, as your distances increase or as your speeds increase. So that's why we've put on Beginners Week. But obviously the learning doesn't have to end with Beginners Week. If you are interested in continuing on, we have a new program starting in the third week of June. There'll be a 14-week program that'll be taking obviously our Couch to 5K runners from couch to 5K, an actual 5K, not just 30 minutes of non-stop running. And our non-stop runners who are already running 20, 30 minutes will be progressing through a program. It could be towards 10K, half marathon, and we've got quite a few members that are working towards marathons as well. So there's plenty to do if you are interested in continuing. Doesn't look like we've got any chat. Any questions? So I'm going to assume you guys are pretty happy with that, and we'll wrap it up there. So thanks very much for coming, guys. And
if we want to run, when's the next run we can do with the club?
Yeah, so tomorrow night, 5:30, we have a beginners virtual club run. So basically, you'll get your Zoom link as usual, and you'll get your phone, either strap it to your arm or just carry it in your hand, and you'll actually hear me discuss what you're doing. So, the warm up first, I'll take you through when it's time to walk, when it's time to run. I'll take you through some dynamic stretches, and then what you can see on your phone, the video of me doing those, and then you'll go off into the main set, which will just be 25 minutes, alternating between a 1-minute jog and 2-minute walk. So that will be the run for tomorrow. If you're already running non-stop and that sounds a bit too tame, then let us know and I can get you in on the club run, which will be with other club members. That's from 6:30 tomorrow night. We also have a virtual club run at 9 a.m. on Sunday, and then next week we'll be merging the beginners and the club members. So the virtual club runs will be 6:30 on Tuesday, Thursday, and 9 a.m. on Sunday. But those will all be available through emails that we're sending out at the moment. Now, I did notice was there some questions coming through here quickly? No. Thank you guys for showing up, and yeah, look forward to seeing you at the next one. All right.
Cheers, guys.
Bye bye.